Good morning, good afternoon. I would like to welcome everyone who is interested today in the ICT Polish market. My guests today are Dominika Bettman, the CEO of Microsoft Poland, Wojciech Janek, GovTech Poland, Michał Paschalis-Jakubowicz, CEO of Oktawave, and Paweł Widawski, Fintech Poland. The topic today is research and development, cloud, and the importance of fintech in Polish innovation. But of course, we have to start with a broader macroeconomic perspective. And as in a previous debate, I must highlight that today's situation in Ukraine is something that is an example of these black swans we are all facing that will have a massive impact on the way we run business and we operate, whether as a society or business. We all faced pandemic as a great interrupter and changing, and massive changer within the way we operate and we forecast or build strategies. And the one thing for sure in this new reality, in that these changes might be more often, and we have somehow get to use to this new macroeconomic landscape. So to start from the broader perspective on the Polish market, I would like to ask Mr. Wojciech Janek, how do you see the Polish market being competitive in this new digital economy that we are entering and we actually accelerated to during the pandemic time?
Okay, thank you very much for this question. I think over the last 30 years, Poland has grown. Polish economy has grown one of the best results in the world, second only to China. And this happened for a reason. And we can, of course, discuss more from a socio-political standpoint, the work ethic or the entrepreneurial spirit that are, of course, very important. But I think something that really got us through those hard times, and also through the pandemic that you mentioned. And Polish GDP has grown considerably during the last year, and this is also for this reason that we are used to change. After the fall of communism, everything had to change, and this led to certain technologies and certain sectors being one of the best in the world. And I think our IT sector is one of those. Maybe we don't have such great companies yet as Microsoft, Google, and so on, the big tech, but I think we'll get there. And we have already developed technologies that are very interesting. For example, in the fintech industry, Blik is one of such technologies that I see that really helps to secure transaction without needing to give your credit card details. That is very important nowadays, that this cybersecurity issues that we are facing. And I think also one of the reasons that the Poland is developing is this human capital. And this is also through education that we'll hopefully talk about later more, because I think at the end, this is the root of economic growth long term, the way your system educates the young. But also we are able to attract talent from all over the world. And one of the reasons for this is that wages are growing, especially in the IT sector. They are competitive with the Western countries, but also Poland is one of the safest countries to live in. And also, I think we are getting there with a really good administrative setup. And one of those is Poland Business Harbor that I hope that everybody that is interested can do and can check. And this is for 7 countries now, for ex-Soviet Union. And those people from those countries, from the IT sector, can come to Poland with using this program. They don't need a visa and they don't need a working permit. And already 25,000 of those people participated in the program, and it's also targeted at startups and large companies that can also partake and without any bureaucratic obstacles start operating in Poland within days. So I hope we will maintain this lead and we will keep attracting talent and producing talent locally through our education system to stay competitive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it might be tough maybe to develop big tech players now, but the advantage of digital economy is that everyone is participating. And this is a massive opportunity for all of us and for Poland as well. Because it creates the opportunity to develop totally new competences, new businesses, new ecosystems, where everyone can contribute and leverage from. But as we talk about Poland as a good place to innovate and to invest, I think there is no better example as Microsoft that a year ago decided to invest $1 billion into the Polish market, into the data center competences. Ms. Bettman, if you could tell us how this decision actually, where it came from.
It's definitely all about people. We can analyze the KPIs, we can analyze the microeconomical perspective, which are definitely important for strategists at a company like Microsoft. But when we deep dive, when we look down to the country, to the people, it's about them. And the decision-making process was tough, but Poland appears as one of the countries where we can really count on highly qualified IT engineers with soft skills, but what is extremely important, the entrepreneurial skills that exist in the country. So a combination of the two. On one hand, very strong IT expertise and also general, relatively high knowledge of the people as far as digital skills are concerned. Because what we see here is that it's important to close the gap. It's not only about building up highly qualified people and leaving the rest of the society without respective skills. It's important to leverage general level of the digital skills in the country. And the so-called digital mindset provides not only for technical skills, it's also about openness, it's about communication skills, it's about people who know what they would like to achieve. That's what I call the entrepreneurship. And I do believe when Microsoft looked at the country and observed all those trends, realized how good the cooperation between business and academia is, how many companies get involved in how young people are educated, when everybody observes also that the continuous education is one of the topics in this country, the company decided to go for the investment here. And I do believe it will continue. I do believe it will convince other people, other investors. And I also count on the Polish men and women who will persist in their trend for development, for education, and for achieving.
We will elaborate more on the competences in on the Polish market in the third debate, but I would like to really give it some light here. It is true, there are reasons why somehow Polish programmers and engineers outstand the average, but it's also the global players investing here who invest a lot into the competences themselves. Because you also have such a project here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we invest on both ends. On one hand, to develop the experts, to make them aware of the global trends, to make them part of the global community of IT experts. On the other hand, we also invest in education in the area of more basic skills, which means people who, for their professional development, simply need to know basic digital skills. Without them, they will not grow.
And the numbers are impressive. In first quarter, as far as I know, it was 200,000 people who were trained within the digital skills by you
yes.
last year, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you. But as we talk about digital economy being an enabler and a big opportunity for everyone, so despite the global players, there are also a lot of local players. Could you tell us, Michał, how it is for you, from your perspective, how local players, cloud providers, can compete within this environment, and what makes you successful here? We had a Gaia X CEO in our last debate, so I know that there are a lot of new projects within the data exchange, cloud collaboration, but how does it look from your perspective?
Let me first explain more in depth the phenomena of Polish cloud engineer. And I will do that basing on the Oktawave experience, the company that I'm heading. And 9 years ago, a couple of engineers, IT engineers, they had this idea of creating the infrastructure as a service provider. So they wrote the platform from scratch. They have launched the fully virtualized cloud. It's not a gimmick, type of thing. It's really a fully virtualized infrastructure as a service cloud. They had made plenty of mistakes while creating it, but at the same time, they have gained the experience and knowledge which is absolutely top-notch because they have done the cloud themselves. And now it's 50 people that really are superior in cloud management. And then we had the hyperscalers coming into the market. And obviously, it was very obvious you could not compete with them head to head. So what we did, we have trained our people to operate the clouds of the hyperscalers as well. And we had become the multi-cloud operator. But this multi-cloud operator with particular set of competencies, because there are guys who made the cloud themselves, and then they had been trained to do other clouds as well. And I believe that this is it about Polish IT specialists. They have the ambition of creating something, yet they are capable of learning the methodology, the competencies, the technology that comes from abroad. And by combining the two, you really get the cloud specialists like the ones that I'm very proud of, as they are in my company. And Dominika said one thing which is very important about the soft skills. Going into the cloud is a transformation process. It's ultra delicate process, not only from technological point of view, because many things may go wrong and the whole thing may collapse, and everybody fears that. But this is also very delicate from the organizational perspective, because it changes the way that company operates. And cloud engineer or cloud architect, when designing the cloud, obviously he's meeting certain technical requirements, but he also needs to know how to propose that to the customer and how to design it in a way that it's acceptable for their organization to perform. So I believe this combination is also unique in our society, and we leverage on that as well. And then finally, as our IT specialists are known around Europe, they obviously gain experience on European projects. So not only the knowledge of local regulatory aspects, very important in the fintech environment, but also knowledge of other countries, this sensitivity, it helps. And just last sentence regarding the Gaia-X and today, recently, the IPCEI project, which is ongoing. For local providers, these projects are a great platform for not only potential expansion around Europe, but also of exchange of knowledge, exchange of know-how, and cross-fertilization of the ideas, because the ideas are there. With all my respect to hyperscalers, because I see and everybody sees what they can do, I would never be brave or crazy enough to neglect the innovation potential of the local IT specialists. And to me, Gaia-X and IPCEI are precisely types of projects that allow for the leverage and for the use of these competencies and this potential.
Right. So digital economy, as I keep saying, is about cooperation, is about trust. Gaia-X is a great example, because this cooperation and trust bring us to the new ecosystems that will allow us to build totally new business. And this is probably the biggest opportunity for everyone. So being a part of all these European initiatives for sure is a massive advantage for the Polish market, as it gives us knowledge transfer, it gives us best examples, case studies, and again, allows to grow the economy better. But we keep talking a lot about cloud. In the previous debate, we talked about tech accelerators, AI, IoT, big data, that all massively accelerated in last 2 years, and the adoption was actually 5 years earlier than previously expected. But this all would not happen without cloud. And as we see the market cloud in Europe, according to IDC data, in 2020 was worth $70 billion. By 2025, we expect the number to be $200 billion. Still, there are a lot of companies that are a bit hesitant, that use cloud for only particular projects, not as a whole strategy enabler. So, Ms. Bettman, if you could just enhance a little bit or shed some light to those who are hesitant.
I would say two things. First, it's about completely different business model of a company, putting the company on a development path where you cannot compare it with the analog development, with the linear development. And this is observed in many different sectors. This is very true for international giants, but also for small and medium enterprises. I bring this experience from the industry sectors. When we face the challenges of the small companies, sometimes family companies, where people are so much used to their business model and believe it is sustainable. With cloud computing, we tell them they will move to a different level of development. They will face international competition. They will be able to face it properly. They will also be able to distribute their products and their services around the world. So this is an eye-opener, this is a world opener, this is market opener. And last but not least, cybersecurity. An issue that is on the mouth of everybody. You mentioned at the very beginning the crisis, the war that we are facing. Everybody's talking about cybersecurity, and cloud computing provides for excellent tools and solutions in that respect.
Yeah, we tend to talk about technologies, and we often keep the cybersecurity apart. But I think that cyber resilience is something that will be priority number one today in this digital world. That is built on trust, but you know, the trust has to build on something. Right. So cloud as being enabler, I think the best example for the way how cloud allowed Polish fintech to grow is this particular sector, financial sector in general, but fintech actually had its great momentum a few years ago and has been transforming. So Paweł, if you could explain more on its phenomenon.
Thank you very much for invitation to this debate. I would start from a very bold and brave statement in which I really believe in. Poland is becoming a financial center of new generation with international reach. And new technologies like cloud, like cybersecurity, are very important ingredients of this new approach. Polish financial sector, Polish financial ecosystem is very diverse, and it's really mix of local and global institutions. On the one hand, we have local small players, startups. There are about 300 startups on our Polish fintech map. Very vibrant ecosystem with great collaboration within the sector, within the ecosystem, but great collaboration also with banks, commercial banks. At the same time, we have global institutions, global banks that decided to establish here in Poland their operations, many different operations, very human-intensive operations like cybersecurity centers. And when we are talking about innovating in financial sector, we have to remember that it's much more complex than innovating in other sectors because it's regulated sector. So very important element of this landscape is a financial supervision authority. A little bit conservative maybe, but with very brave, very open, innovative agenda for the future. So I believe that Polish FSA will be one of the accelerator of innovation in Polish financial sector. A great collaboration with big techs, providers of cloud services, for instance. So I really believe that the future is ours, and thanks to the great talents, great infrastructure, no legacy systems. At the same time, we have to remember that Polish financial infrastructure is really new. We had no legacy systems, and building on something new is really easy and comfortable from the perspective of new players.
Yeah, but just to be more specific, in the beginning, like 5 years ago, 7 years ago, there were some famous startups in fintech industry that exported services elsewhere, and Poland was known for really extreme innovation in the financial sector. But within the time, as I said, it transformed, and now we have a lot of BPOs, so operating centers that actually support financial, and the feature of it are more and more advanced services that Polish market is offering. If you could tell us more about this.
Definitely. Several years ago, when global financial institutions decided to establish here their operations, they were very easy processes, transactional, accounting, HR. But today we can see that they decide over time to apply here more and more advanced processes, more human intensive, more sophisticated, like cybersecurity, for instance, compliance, KYC, but also even more advanced processes that are related to business processes. So absolutely, this is really important, and it gives us perspective of global institutions that Polish talents are capable to handle really complex issues.
Thank you. So, to start summarizing a bit, what distinguishes generally European economy within digital is regulations. In the beginning, it was often treated as something that puts us behind in Europe against the global providers. But now we see that these regulations become more and more important. GDPR is a good example of a regulation purely based on the European law that is now actually being imported to 128 countries globally. AI Act. So we can see that there are more and more areas that are being regulated for safety of its users, so for safety of citizens. And I believe that this is one of these key differentiators that actually in the beginning stopped the growth, but now is absolutely accelerating it. Another thing is competences. I think everyone here said clearly that this market is pretty unique in terms of competences. We export high quality services. What else would you add at the beginning, at the end, just to summarize this? Maybe, Mr. Janek, if you can start with you.
I think I would go back to the competences, because this is something that if you plan for the future, you don't want to have growth for the next 10 years, but for the next 100, then education is the only thing you should be really thinking of. What we looked at is, of course, we have the tendency here also, and we've worked with the business to look only on the last part, so just the universities, because it's sort of the easiest to make some kind of arrangement with the university and develop a new program and so on. But actually, what we during the research and collaboration with Ministry of Education, we noticed that the problems start earlier, and many entrepreneurs came to us and said, well, the issue really is that young people are not interested in tech careers. Of course, IT now is a hot subject, but I don't only mean IT, I mean also material science and all kind of maybe more hard engineering sciences. And they were not interested because they didn't see it as an interesting occupation. They kind of watch movies and think, okay, lawyer or an investment banker is something to do. So what we did the program Laboratories of the Future, that is the largest investment program in Polish schools. And what we did, we give 1 billion of Polish zloty to the schools, about 300 zlotys per student, for the school to choose and to purchase equipment, IT equipment. There were certain things that were obligatory, basically what we thought should be microcontrollers and video audio systems. But basically we hope that this will be a biggest change for the schools to sort of interest students at the early level that IT and technology is something interesting. You are not a geek to sit there and try to develop something, but you can be, you can have a great future, and hopefully this interest in the early stage will transform in a more balanced society and more balanced towards those sectors, and more talent for you guys to utilize.
We will. Okay, Ms. Bettman, if you can then comment.
I believe we are also better and better in building the bridges between the generations, because with the market economy of almost 30 years now, we have a kind of cumulative knowledge that was elaborated by the early generations of the market economy, and in areas like infrastructure, like critical infrastructure, in industries where this legacy is an advantage and not a disadvantage. I do believe this kind of building the bridges between the generation is very important. My generation, Generation X, traditionally very focused on working hard, not compared to what you said about the young people who simply go more for this work-life balance issues and tending to make their own choices, sometimes against the traditional way of gaining money, working, building your professional career. I think the understanding and building those two words together can bring another advantage to the further development.
Okay. Michał?
Well, I think we all agreed that competencies are very much exportable from Poland, and plenty has been said around that. I just want to also add that I have never seen the cloud specialist who would had any refrain towards educating himself. On the contrary, they're really eager for the knowledge and different competencies. And I have seen clients who want different cloud because the one they already know, but they also want to know how it works with the other one. So there is this will to educate. However, as for Poland, there is one other thing, which is not supply, it's demand. Today, when it comes to cloudization, Poland is on reaching this steep element of the S letter when it comes to the typical S-curve of demand for cloud. And we are in particular moment, because all that had been said in the previous debates around IoT and AI, and also what we speak here about security, about industry, there are plenty of clouds to be launched there. So it's not only that we can serve the markets that are elsewhere in Europe or in the world, but there will be quite a demand to serve the market which is, sorry to say, but underdeveloped when it comes to clouds in Poland. So an opportunity there as well.
So a big domestic market. And the final?
I would underline a very, very important advantage of Poland that in the current geopolitical situation might be considered as a crucial. We are a member of European Union, the sphere of security. We have great access to internal market. And if you are a financial institution that has license in Poland, you have access to whole population of European Union. So this is a really great advantage that we should be proud of.
Agree. Being a member of a bigger team is always the advantage. So with this conclusion, I would like to end. I would like to thank you all my panelists today for really great discussion, great input, and thank you all for listening to us. And still, there is one more debate in half an hour, so stay with us. We will be focusing more on software, gaming, and e-sport. Thank you, and goodbye.